Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to Respawn Station. My name is Kandula, and today I'm joined by Nick Sivak to talk about our favorite games of 2024 so far. But, of course, we're going to get to that later. Before we jump into, obviously, how we started, you got everyone who listened to the last episode, you got trolled because I was like, Nick has new audio. And then I had people message me like, Nick has new audio? I couldn't tell the difference. You got tested and you passed. All those people passed. Everyone else got pranked. Nick's new audio should be working now. Nick.
Yo.
There it is.
I think we got it working this time.
Yep. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. The added audio fidelity as we talk about some really cool video games for the next hour and a half or longer. Who knows? But first, Nick, I got to ask you, man, what are you playing? Because, look, there's at least one thing that's caught my eye.
Yeah, so basically, my playtime is kind of split this week between two main topics. And I feel like the one needs a little bit of an explanation up front, so I guess we'll talk about that. So, recently, I went on a bit of a trip for my birthday. My birthday was back in March. As of the time of recording, it is almost the end of June.
Yep.
But my parents got me tickets to see Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons in Atlantic City. So we made like a little trip out of that to go to Atlantic City. And so part of my gaming this week was done in a casino.
Hell
which is... It kind of counts, I guess.
The real gaming.
Yeah, real stakes, let's say.
Yeah.
In those games. But yeah, I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about gambling.
Yes.
For more or less, and
look, I mean, the only thing I have, the only relation I have to gambling is like watching people unbox CS:GO skins. You know. That's about as far as I go. So like,
I mean, it's honestly not that far removed. Like,
so it's just the slot machine. Just you pull the lever, and then if the three line up, you get it. Is that the gist?
In the traditional sense, yes. Like old slot machines, they have different reels with different icons. Like you think of the bars or the sevens, sort of stuff like that, and they have like that crank lever.
Yeah.
A lot of modern slot machines feel like, you know, hyper mobile games on crack, I'd say.
Okay.
Like there's ones that are like, you know, taller than you and I that, you know, have like 7 reels with like, you know, 30 different icons. Like it starts hitting and like lights start flashing and numbers are going up everywhere. Like the rules are basically non-existent. Like they do have them.
Right.
Like a lot of these machines, they'll either have like a button that you can hit to show like the rule set or whatever, but again, it's essentially nonsensical.
Sure.
What pops up and when you get rewarded. Like I was playing this one that was really lucky for me. It was like Vegas themed, but it had this big wheel on top with a bunch of different like values on it, and then on the reels it had like numbers and it had these electric balls, and if you got 8 electric balls within 7 games, you would get a spin on the wheel, and whatever the wheel landed on would be like, you know, a decent, you know, chunk of change that you get. So this machine was actually hitting for me a little bit, and I ended up at one point getting like $400 from it. Now that's not including the $400 that I spent previously to get to that point. So, you know, I was pretty much breaking even. At that point,
I was gonna say, at least you broke even. And some people can't even say that much. So,
yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting experience being in a casino. It's, you know, it is controlled lighting, I would say. You know, you always hear these stories about how they don't really have like windows and stuff. They try to do these things to try to disguise how much time you're spending in a casino, and that definitely is, you know, it's the vibe. There's there's like dramatic lighting, but sometimes it's a little bit, darker. There aren't many windows until you're on like the outskirts of certain ones. Like, you know, there's just
yeah.
auditory noise constantly happening just from
Is it
like
is it
people
in
that
my
are
head?
there
If I was
or
picturing it, it would just be like that. You hear like the obviously conversations, and then you hear ding 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 ding.
pretty much, yeah. You'll hear like ringing, you'll hear like sirens go off, you'll hear the random machines go like just like sound effects going off
Well,
everywhere.
I mean, this might be a hot take, but I feel like the way you're describing it, it sounds like casinos are just arcades for adults.
It pretty much is,
Wow.
yes. Instead of getting like,
Tokens that you can redeem for
little
like a
tokens and
chapstick
toys.
of Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of that, you're getting money.
Yeah. That
Or
you can then
losing
go
money, which
out
is more
and then
often.
spend the money on the chapstick with the Batman logo on it. Yeah.
Precisely. So yeah, like I played a couple of slots this weekend, just whatever would catch my eye.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't walk away with any
Yeah.
money.
You have
I
a
didn't
good time.
lose
Though?
all my
I mean,
money.
yeah. I mean, did you have a good time?
I did have a good time.
Because you
but
can lose and still have a good time, or you can win and have a bad time. So
exactly. So yes, it was a fun time. I did get a good amount of play time out of my money, and like I said, I didn't lose all of it. So
sure.
that's a win in my book.
Yeah.
But it also just when for you and I, Sri, how we play a lot of we'll call them consumer video games, I guess.
Yep.
Like playing slot machines, it's like part of it feels like the Wild West. You just kind of go in there, and it's
Untamed
just like,
territory.
it's this entire world that like even mobile games are sort of like a weird stopgap between, but like there's nothing quite like a legitimate slot machine designed to take your money. Like it's a
Yeah.
it's an interesting case. They have so many different themes. There's like Wheel of Fortune, and like I said, just like random
Do they have
just different
microtransactions?
themes.
I mean, that's really the
That's pretty much the whole thing. You give us money and
Baked
we'll
in.
let you play.
yeah. I will eventually go to a casino just to see what I can do, but I mean I just have terrible luck. I don't know if I would have. This is something that I don't think we've mentioned on the podcast before, but I've mentioned it to other people because Nick is the only person I know who's ever won a carnival like prize, and his carnival. Nick, what was your carnival prize for at this? Go ahead,
My
go.
carnival prize that I won was a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I remember I remember seeing it and being like, "What the." I didn't know those were real. I thought that was just like a fake box that they just put down.
Yeah, basically it was a game where they had this giant wheel, and on the counter there was a bunch of different like numbers, I think it was just numbers.
Okay.
And so basically to get into the tier of prizes that were the big stuff, so they had like Nintendo Switches, and I think they had PS4s at the time, if I remember. This was probably like 2018,
Yeah.
2019 maybe. But basically you had to give $10 to get a stack of quarters, and you could spread the quarters out to whatever numbers you want. But if you wanted one of the big prizes, you had to put all
of them?
$10 on one spot.
Yeah.
And so I picked the spot, I put my quarters down, and then they hand you a pneumatic like switch, and basically you control when the wheel
Oh, I
starts
see.
and stops or something. I don't remember exactly how it worked, or like maybe they started it and then they give you the stop
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. But it landed on my number, and then like basically they had to call somebody over. The guy was like, "What's up?"
No one's
and then
ever done this.
the lady that was working at it just pointed down, and he was like, "Oh." He was like, "Well, which prize do you want?" I was like, "I'll take the Switch because I already had a PS4." So,
Yeah.
and that's the Switch that I have to this day. It kind of stinks because it's like there's been other Switches that have come out where it's like, man, I kind of want that, but I
Yeah.
love the story around mine so
Right,
much
right.
that like I can't bring myself to get
Dude,
rid of it.
that's so funny you say that because I have almost the same exact situation because the OLED Switch came out and I was like, oh, maybe that'll be worth it back when it first came out. Obviously, at this point, I'm not investing any new Switch product at this point, but I just don't play it enough. It's nothing against the system, but the when I was looking at the Switch OLED and stuff, I was, okay, I'm not going to get, I don't like having redundant systems. I'm not like a person who has multiple of the same system. So if I get a new one, I'll get rid of the old one. I just need to play the games. And lo and behold, as I went to do it, like the memory bit me of essentially like, so briefly, the story of how I got my Nintendo Switch. I was in college, and it came out in March, I believe. And everyone was like, in the lead up to it, I think it was like at least a little bit of hesitation of like, what exactly are they doing here? Will this succeed? But then like it came out and everyone's like, holy shit, like they hit gold here. And so, and also obviously Breath of the Wild being what it was. So I used to essentially I'm going to try to give this as succinctly as possible. Our college has like the core, the center of the map. Let's say, picture a map in your head is the college itself, all the buildings for the classrooms and everything. If you go to the right side, you get is where I used to live in my apartment, and there's one GameStop that way, which we were actually talking about in the mall. And then when Nick and I saw each other last week after the episode, we did a live episode. You guys didn't see that if you missed it, yeah. But then I was talking to this guy there at this GameStop, and I'd go to him like almost every day and be like, "Hey, so you guys got any Switches or like any news of like when the Switch is gonna, like, you're gonna get more Switches in stock?" And this was essentially like around 1 month after the Switch came out. I went to the store, and he's like, "Hey, dude, just so you know, the store that's on the other side of town, so like the complete other side of campus, is like the Nintendo console or the Nintendo store. So there will be shipments, but they're the ones that are going to be getting it." So I think it was a Saturday. I woke up at like 6 a.m. All right, got dressed because obviously I had to get there before the GameStop like really opened and everything. I got up. I took a bus to campus, waited for another bus to take me to the other side of campus, and then from there I had to begin a walk, which took me about 20 minutes at least. But I was going to say 30 minutes, at least walking back, but 20-minute walk to get to the GameStop, get there, and I was like, "Hey, you guys have those Nintendo Switches?" And he's like, "Dude, I sold my last one." And then I was like, "Oh, fuck." And then he's like, "No, I'm just kidding. Dang. We have like 50 of them." And so I got my Switch. And then the hard part, I had to walk back in the rain. So I tucked my Switch under my my shirt and jacket, and then I walked it home. Yeah. So that was the adventure. And I was like, "That's too good." I still remember that fateful walk, that moment where he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have any." I remember all of that. So I was like, I can't get rid of it. The Switch will stay with me. But
that's crazy. We both have such impactful Switch stories.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I was ready too, because like I knew as soon as like I heard that the Switch shipment was coming, I ordered on Amazon a Switch case and a copy of Breath of the Wild, and it was delivered to my apartment the day before I actually got the Switch. So I was like committing to this thing before, I was like I actually had it in my hands. But hey,
nice.
That's how it is.
Yeah, that was when I got mine. I was just like, "Oh, well, I have a Switch now. I guess I should probably look for some games."
It is crazy. It's okay. I mean, look, this podcast goes off the rails all the time. There is this new handheld gaming device. I believe it's something Legion. But essentially the reason why I bring it up is because I saw a video about it today, and it's like a Switch, where it has a screen, and then you can take off the sides and detach it. But this, dude, I can't type. I think my Google search bar is fucked. I can't type in my thing anymore. Is my keyboard dead? What's going on here? Anyway,
DDoSed.
I'm just gonna talk about it while I. Oh, okay, there it is. It is called. Okay, so it's called Legion Go. So this is from Lenovo. It's an 8.8 inch handheld gaming device, which is sizable if you know anything about handheld devices. But the crazy thing that I saw a video about it today, the Joy-Cons come off just like the sides come off just like a Joy-Con, but then the right I'll say Joy-Con, the right side controller, you can put down and like essentially hold up dude, I'm struggling today. You make a fist, right? You're holding it like a fist and you put it down on the table, and it turns into a mouse. And then essentially you can play like first person shooters by using it as a mouse, by like detaching and using it. And then there's also a step further where I believe like if you, the video I saw, which I don't think it's like paired with it, like as in I don't think they're sold together, but like this guy had like those glasses where you can attach a display to. So homie was just living in the future for just moving, just jerking off a table essentially. But yeah, no, interesting. I didn't know that there would be this kind of crazy advancements happening in this field of handheld gaming PCs. This thing, it's $676 at least right now. I see it on Amazon. I don't know if that's worth it for you guys. It's your choice, but hey, you can put it on the table and use it as a mouse. So there you go. Anyway, Nick. Now, obviously, you're gambled. You're playing playing games with money, but how about playing games with your sanity? How's Elden Ring treating you in your second time around as you prepare for the shadow of the Erd Tree? Is that what it is?
Yep. Okay. Shadow of the Erd Tree. Big expansion. Everybody's talking about it. I'm not ready yet. So basically, I loaded up my old save, which is in New Game Plus, and it was a big thing with me because I've always heard that if you play New Game Plus on Souls games, like it gets harder basically. Yeah. But while true, I was doing some research into it, and at least for the first couple New Game Pluses, it sounds like it's really kind of negligible, like the difficulty spike. And so that kind of put my worries at ease about going into the DLC on New Game Plus, because I was going back and forth on whether to do that or start over from scratch and just play the whole game again. But that I really didn't want to do, honestly, in my heart of hearts. I was like, I put 100 hours into this game before. Like, I don't want to
go through that
do it again.
Yeah.
So basically, I've hopped back into my New Game Plus. I've sort of speed ran it whenever I was in New Game Plus because I was trying to go for the different endings for the Platinum Trophy.
Yeah.
And so like I have like this path carved through the map of like where I went in New Game Plus. And there's all these pockets around of like bonus optional content that I did on my first playthrough but didn't do in the new game. So I'm kind of going around to these pockets and kind of re-establishing my flow with the game and kind of, reacclimating myself to the controls, because obviously it's a Souls-like. You kind of got to get into a certain mode when you're playing them.
Yeah.
So far, it's been pretty easy. I've been in the early game areas though. I haven't really upgraded to a lot of the later game stuff, but with my super high level character and tons of upgraded gear, I'm kind of just going through the motions with it early on. But I mean, the trip back so far has been really nice. I mean, this game, I think I gave it a 9. I haven't looked up my review for it when I reviewed it, but this is one of those games of a generation, right? And everybody will, most people will say that. And so coming back to it, it's just like, man, the art style in this game is amazing. The atmosphere in this game is amazing.
Yeah.
The combat, compared to other Souls games and stuff, you just kind of get into this dance with enemies, and you have different weapon arts where if you're basically my character has a shield in one hand and a sword in the other. And so I can block a hit with the shield, and then if you hit the right trigger right after that, you'll do a little follow-up riposte kind of attack.
Oh, okay.
And it just gets so satisfying when you get into that flow of block and riposte, or if you do it too early, you won't interrupt an enemy, so they'll catch you with your pants down and beat you down. So getting back into all of that is just really nice. And it's nice not having the the overwhelming mountain in front of you of having to replay the entire game and like, go through every area with a fine-tooth comb, trying to pick up upgrade materials and all that.
So how long are you playing the new game plus of it all until you feel like you're like, are you following a build that kind of gets you in the right place? Because I've seen some of those going around.
So when I loaded up the save, because I haven't played basically since I beat the game, which would have been like a month or two after it came out.
Yeah.
I was reminded, because I had two katanas, basically, was what my character was holding. And I was like, oh yeah, that was a build I used to fight Melania, which was like, the hard boss and everything. And I don't think I ever reset from that build. So that's kind of the build that I'm just continuing to use. I don't have like a specific build that I'm going to try to go into the DLC with, because they've added like a ton of new weapons and new play styles. So like I kind of want to play around with those instead of just sticking to what, I spent 100 hours using, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's also the fun of returning to it, is that you can maybe use different builds and, see what kind of works. I will say that I've I don't know if I'm like feeling scared for you, but I've seen a few people play Elden Ring. Notably, do you know who Brandon Sanderson is?
I know of him. He's the writer, right?
Yes, yeah. For those of you who don't know, he's the author of many books, most popularly the Mistborn series and the Way of Kings. And oddly enough, on release day, he was streaming the DLC. And by the way, absolute, like, I mean, he's good. I mean, way better than me. So it's like, he was talking about the game, and he's like, yeah, I like to, like, if I'm not like learning all the movesets of the bosses, then I'm not really connecting with the game. And I'm like, God, I just want to beat their ass. I don't really care about like understanding their movesets. So it's totally different play style there. But Nick, I hope that whenever we get to that episode when we're talking about Shadow of the Erd Tree, I hope we're not, oh man, it took me 20 hours to beat, or whatever. What did Kai Cenat beat it in like 60 hours? I think he just did the final boss for 60 hours or something.
Yeah, basically to get to the DLC, as is FromSoft tradition, you do need to be at a certain point in the game and beat certain bosses.
It starts with an M, right? It's like the more...
Moog is the main one. But I have heard from other people that you also have to do Star Scourge Radahn, which is one of the main story bosses. I have that one finished, but I don't have Moog beaten in the New Game Plus. So I will need to at least play to that point.
Yeah.
How long that'll take me, I honestly don't remember. Because, like, where you fight Moog is in, like, a hidden area attached to a hidden area. So it's like I need to remember how to even get there in the first place to even attempt those challenges. But I'm probably going to be playing for, like, if I had to guess, maybe, like, 10 hours or so, just doing side stuff. Like, theoretically, like, if I have the bosses
this is just
done,
preparing for the DLC, which I've heard that I mean, look, we're going to talk about more about the DLC, when Nick gets to it, so we're not going to talk too much about it now. So obviously, subscribe, stay tuned, all that stuff. But the I've heard that the final boss of the DLC is the hardest boss in Elden Ring. Does that scare you going in as like? I mean, I've heard Melania's a bitch. First of all, how long did it take you to beat Melania? Or, yeah, that's her name.
She was definitely the hardest one for the base game. It didn't take me a crazy long time because I was using like spirit ashes and summoning. And,
sure.
Depending on the people that you ask, the hardcore people that like won't touch any of that, right? Yeah, they'll say I didn't beat it, but like,
dude, I'm
enough
glad
of these games
that
where
exists.
I'm just like I just want to have it like done and get the experience. I don't need to prove anything.
Yeah, no, that was me with Lies of P.
bosses.
I know it's a significantly, probably a much easier game comparatively to Elden Ring, but playing through Lies of P, I was doing the same thing. I had the Star something Stardust or something. It's been a while. It's been a few months since I played the game, but like, yeah, you can essentially, those are like summons, so you can get like an NPC to help you. Well, are summons NPCs or like real players? I know there are real players that can invade.
There's two different things. There's the Ashes of War, which those are like NPC summons, and then you do have like the ability in game to summon a real player, and they can help you.
Yeah, no, I did the same thing in Lies of P, and I'm not ashamed of it. But one thing I'd love to see is a Souls-like game that's like co-op. That's not like. So, for example, right? I was looking at the Demon Souls. Have you played Demon Souls, the remake?
Mm-hmm.
So apparently there's co-op in that game, and so I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it a go. I'll look into it, and then. But it turns out like the only way to really do the DLC, unless I'm wrong, from what I read online, one person has to beat the boss, and then they collect something from the boss that then they can use to like go to another player's world and help them with that boss.
Yes,
or I guess kill them. I guess if you wanted to.
The FromSoft co-op system is draconian in design for the most part. Elden Ring is probably the easiest of all of them. They've kind of gotten better at that as time has gone on and like streamlining that. But even in Elden Ring, you still need like a specific item, and you need to put your summon sign down in like a specific area for people to be able to summon you in. It's not just like party up with your friend and explore the world.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping for. Maybe next time. Maybe Elden Ring 2. Or Eldest Ring. I don't know what the
Elden Rings.
Yeah, Elden Rings. All right.
But yeah, just to real quick wrap it up, put a bow on it. I could theoretically do the DLC right now if I was ready. Like, I feel comfortable enough with that, but I just want to really sink back into the game before committing to that. But yeah, having a lot of fun and really looking forward to the DLC. And just to answer your one question about the if it scares me that the DLC boss is like the hardest, that's kind of par for the course. Bloodborne's DLC, the boss in that I remember was like extremely hard too. So like, I think as far as all of the Souls games that I've played have gone, like Elden Ring, I would say was on the easier side for me. So like, while I'm honestly preparing myself to have hard bosses, because like everybody seems to agree, it's like, yeah, these are definitely a notch up above the base game stuff. Like, I don't think it's gonna be too bad. At least I hope not.
Yeah. Well, tune in soon to find. No, not soon, but tune in into one of the few future episodes where we'll find out if Nick will regret those very words.
Sri, I've been jabbering a good bit. What are you playing?
So last week, I talked briefly, shared first impressions about a game I was playing called Echo Generation Midnight Edition. And I'm happy to say that I have finished the game. And on top of that, my review is out right now on RespawnStation.com. So you can go head on over there for kind of clearly worded version of my thoughts that I'm going to give today. And also for my score, because I'm not going to tell you what the score, what score I gave it. So take that, listeners. But anyway, let's talk about Echo Generation Midnight Edition. This is, to quickly recap, a game from Coco Cucumber. Now, I've come to realize that we've talked about how Nick and I have played their other voxel-based adventure game called Ravenlock. But they have 3 games that are all kind of the same voxel style. I think it's like an unofficial voxel trilogy. But this one is originally, I believe, came out in 2021, and just last week it got a re-release with the Midnight Edition. And essentially, the Midnight Edition comes with it some general kind of quality of life improvements, along with updated combat mechanics, enhanced visuals, a quest log feature, fast travel, and just, like I said, general cleanup things to make your time with the game a little bit easier. And I guess there's a lot to kind of dig into in this game, because like you can look at like the screenshots or even the key art and be like, what the hell is going on in the background? Because there's everything from like, dead prom girls that turn into bosses to, mechs. I mean, there's just a wide variety of things that you're fighting in the game. But at the start, you are in this Canadian suburb of Mapletown, and you're essentially setting up to shoot a movie, a short film, I think. It could be a feature film, but that script was pretty short, guys. I looked at that. Those eighths are not going to be very long. But they're making a movie over the summer, and while this is happening, some bizarre events kind of distract you, and you're sent on this path where, obviously, like I said, you're going to be just facing some crazy-ass enemies. But the very simple note, right? If you're here to find out, hey, did Sri like Echo Generation Midnight Edition? Absolutely, I did. I thought it was great because there's so much. First of all, it took me 9 hours total to beat the game, so I was almost exactly halfway done the game when I talked about it last week. But here, having now played through it all and kind of looking at it from a little bit of a distance, I really think that the Midnight Edition of this game is the best version of the game to play, because all those things that I mentioned, I know that there's some quality of life improvements that I said, but like the quest log, the fast travel, those are like essential to the experience in terms of essentially making it all a little bit easier and a little bit more digestible. Because, for example, after last week's episode, I wasn't able to play the game for about 2 days, and then so I went back on Friday and, was like, okay, where did I leave off? And the quest log is so helpful because you can see, okay, what do I have to do, and then key items and stuff like that are highlighted green just for convenience. And at any time, you can press Y. I don't know what it is on keyboard. I was playing on the Steam Deck, and if you press Y, it shows you completed quests too. So if you're ever like, okay, what did I do, and then like, what do I need to do still, you can kind of arrange that. And yeah, the quest log feature, it's so simple. If anything, it's like a little like I found myself over relying on it because I'm just like, what the hell do I do here? And like, I know that they're like, I have to go into a general area, but like, I know that kind of stuff. If anything, it was OP, but absolutely, you need the quest log here, and also fast travel. You can fast travel with from any of the payphones in the game, and there's again, off the top of my head, I did not write this down or anything. I'm gonna say like there's probably like 10 maybe locations that you'll kind of fast travel between, but just cutting out that time where you're not just running around, it kind of makes the game that much tighter, because then I'll be over in one side of the map and I'll pick up an item that I have to give to someone on the other side of the map, and I don't have to dread that like journey and be like, oh, I have to trek all the way over. I can just go to a payphone, travel, like, fast travel, and can complete it. So that kind of stuff, very awesome. Now, speaking of what Echo Generation is, just kind of at its core, right? Probably what it was when it launched back in 2021. It's a turn-based combat game, active turn-based. And I think active is that important word because it's something we've been seeing more and more as our like turn-based games come back into popularity. I think more people want an active turn-based combat because the more of the Pokemon style where you pick a move and then you kind of sit back and watch it happen. Those are fun, but I think that it lacks maybe player agency. So in Echo Generation, there's I believe 30 mini games that are kind of baked into the game with the various attacks you pick up, and these range from like I'm trying to describe like two squares, like two different size squares, and one's like shrinking, and when they're the same size, you have to click a button. There's another mini game that has you essentially spam the A button until a meter fills up. But then there's more kind of complex ones where you have to like DDR almost, type in like a certain amount of or like a certain order of keys and stuff. So all that essentially determines the effectiveness of your move, and it adds a little bit, like I was saying, it adds some of that player agency to it. The only kind of reservation I have about the active combat and with Echo Generation is that sometimes there's like, it's gonna sound weird, but like there's so many of the mini games that, and also by the end of the game, as you're kind of slowly, essentially picking up move sets from comic books that that you find around the map. You can literally pick them up, or you do a favor for someone and they'll give it to you. But those comic books are how you get the moves, and those moves literally just keep going. When you get to a battle, you'll just see like the list of moves you can do just expands. And I think comes a point, especially in the late game, when you have like 9 moves or something, whatever the main character has. It becomes a little confusing of like either I click an attack not knowing or like assuming it's a different attack, because there's 3 different attacks for an axe, for example. So they're all axe images, and so in my head, in the heat of the battle, I'm just like, yeah, this is the right one, and then it's not the right one. Or
Gotcha.
The other thing that happens is I'll click an attack, and in my anticipation of the mini game coming out, I'll fuck it up, and I'll just press A, and the game will be like, oh, you messed up, you idiot, you dumb. that was your move, and then I'll do like a no crit hit or something and do 3 damage. So that stuff takes a little bit of time to kind of get used to, and for me, obviously, I didn't even get used to it because I was still doing it at the end of the game. But really, when it comes to active combat, that's really the only negative that I have, and I'm did get air quotes for our audio listeners.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
With we both played Ravenlock. I obviously have not played Echo Generations. Do you prefer the active turn-based, or do you prefer the more like action-based combat that Ravenlock had? Typically, for me, I usually tend to prefer more like action-y combat, but like I'm not opposed to turn-based stuff. Do you think like one is better than the other, or do you think like they're just different styles of game?
No, that's a good question, and I did that was one I found myself kind of thinking about, because I did think about Ravenlock while I was playing this game. Ravenlock, by the way, another game that I think both Nick and I both kind of recommend, and similar in terms of like that game is also similar. I mean, in terms of you're going around and doing solving kind of small mysteries, doing favors for people that kind of gets you towards the end game. Mm-hmm. I think that it was rewarding playing Ravenlock because I had it in my head that it was kind of like a Souls-like. So I was like in my head, I was like, I'm doing good. I'm playing a Souls-like game. But there is a charm that Echo Generation has that I think helps the turn-based combat and kind of outweighs it for Ravenlock, where essentially, to answer your question, I don't think one's better than the other kind of pound for pound. But when I look at both packages total, I do like Echo Generation more. It has so many of the qualities that I enjoy. Like, so for example, I'm just going to give you examples back to back. Have you ever watched a movie with J.J. Abrams, or a J.J. Abrams movie called Super 8?
I've seen clips from it, but I don't think I've seen the whole movie.
That movie is about a bunch of teenagers who are, I believe, on vacation, and they're shooting a short film. And that vibe, if you make that a little bit more vibrant, is similar to what you get in Echo Generation. And in turn, that Super 8 and those kind of movies, I think, are very inspired by the Spielberg classics that came before it, like E.T. and Jaws and all that stuff, the summer blockbusters that Spielberg made. And this has a flavor of that. I don't think it necessarily nails all of it, but there's like moments where where I found myself smiling, and I was kind of enjoying the general banter between the group. It's to explain the group dynamic. There's 3 characters that you can bring into combat. It's you, the main character that you play as, which, at the start of the game, you can pick between a handful of different looks, of what you want to look as. And then after a few, probably a good 30 minutes or 40 minutes, depending on how fast or slow you are with kind of doing missions, you'll add your sister to the party as well. And then again, another 30, 40 minutes after that, you'll add the third member, which is a rotating chair of pets that you can adopt as you kind of play. And these, I say pets loosely because some of them are like they're not all like the first one is a cat, but like not all of them are just cats and dogs. There's different variety. I'm not gonna say anymore, just not to spoil anything, but yeah, there's that's your core party, and then after every level, after combat you'll level, you get an XP. It's turn-based combat. I'm trying not to over-explain it, but after every level you level up, and you can either put your points into health, strength, or skill. And I kind of essentially played with the characters as if I played in character. So I think I said this last episode, but essentially like the big brother, I gave a lot of health and strength to. The sister, I mainly just gave her a skill, so she was like a 2-hit kill, but like her skill points were really good, or she added a lot of skill points, I should say. And then the third party, I almost exclusively played as the cat with the cat, and I put almost all of that cat's points into health, so it had like the biggest, the beefiest health bar, and the cat also has essentially a healing move, so it can heal half of the health of another character or itself. And so it became like that, essentially it was a great strategy that I've developed. I'm going to say that to myself, where I'd have, my main character essentially just do as much damage as possible with pure strength attack. The sister can do skill-based attacks, and then if either of them got low, the cat does, heals them. Or if it doesn't heal them, then it does like 3 attack. It's like a scratch them, and it does 3 attack or whatever. But yeah, it worked out well, kind of building that play style. At least for me. But with that said, for anyone that's last kind of quick thing about kind of combat and everything, I'll say, if you are someone like me and you're worried that you'll, at one point you'll get just absolutely just destroyed. It's not a Souls-like, obviously, but there's, I think even in turn-based games, there's that kind of moment where you're like, oh, shoot, I can't beat this boss. Don't worry, you will, I didn't face that at all, and like I said, I'm not a great turn-based player. I'm not a pro turn-based, active turn-based combat guy, but I think maybe 3 or 4 bosses killed me more, but other than that, almost every boss I was able to take on and on the first move. And there's some really colorful bosses too, so definitely a lot of stuff to look forward to over the course of those 8 to 9 hours that you play. And I guess speaking of that, looking forward to, this game looks awesome. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the visual upgrades that they were talking about for this Midnight Edition, but there's the lighting, the atmosphere. You'll kind of see some of that stuff in the background. It looks awesome, and also I think a big kind of, I think the biggest kind of benefactor to the game's visuals is the skybox. I don't think I would have ever considered, I don't know, maybe it was like a thing for me, I just in my head I'd never put it together, but I would have never thought a turn-based adventure game would have, I'd be talking about the skyboxes, but man, I don't even know if it's a skybox. It could just be literally they just painted that, made it into a piece, and that's just kind of what it is. But the skies in this game look so consistently good. It's like an anime. I mean, there's over on our Respawn Station Steam page, I shared a few screenshots, but this game looks awesome. And the Coco Cucumber, they really got this voxel art shit down. I mean, it can make it look good.
Yeah, based on what you've been talking about and, the trailers that, I've been seeing as you flash them up on the screen, it's making me want to hop in. I just think about when we're talking about Ravenlock, and I was like, I enjoyed that game. So yeah, they definitely have a very strong sense of style, and other people do voxel graphics and stuff like that. It's not a unique thing to them, but I think they just wield that style so strongly that their games do have a consistent look, and it's beautiful to look at.
And I think to wrap up my general thoughts on the game first, it's good, right? It's great. I really liked it. You can head on over to respawnstation.com, read my full thoughts on it. But now I want to go on a little bit of a tangent because I feel a certain way about this game that I've rarely, and I know I just said this about the skyboxes, but I rarely ever say this about a video game, and that is that I wish it was a little bit longer. Now, I don't necessarily think that means the game has to be, like a 50-hour RPG or whatever it is, but I want to explain a little bit of why that is, because I think that right now, the way it is in the game, as is, even in the Midnight Edition, the pacing is a little off. So some minor spoilers. I'm not going to talk about any story beats, but I do want to talk about just general pacing. So if you don't want to know anything, then this is your warning. But essentially, the game Echo Generation takes place over the course of 2 days, and while you can take a nap to heal up your health, like on any bed, by the way. Weird that these kids are just sleeping on random beds to heal up health. We're going to ignore that, but you can sleep. You can take naps to heal up your health, and no amount of no amount of naps will change the day. Like it won't. Like it's not like you go to sleep and then you wake up the next day. And that was what I thought was weird, because at the start of the game, especially, not knowing anything about it, going into it fresh, there's a moment where you walk out and you meet someone at a bus stop, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to go here tomorrow? Like, at the video store or whatever? Well, downtown." And so in my head, I heard that and I was like, "Oh shit!" So I got to remember this. I got to remember that like tomorrow I should meet this person at the video store downtown, and. I'm taking naps, I'm healing, I'm trying to do this quest because honestly, after like an hour, I'm like, dude, I need to get the thing or I'm gonna miss the opportunity to go to the thing and meet this person tomorrow. But like, it's baked in. Like you cannot. It is part of the story. The game progresses at the pace that it sets, not the pace that you set. And so because of that, you end up getting into that thing where it's, I've taken like 50 naps in a day, and the day doesn't change. Until like certain key moments of the story are hit. Like certain people are always around. Like there's one person that enters your house to, I guess, speak to your mom, and until you do like something like 4 hours later, something give or take, that person stays in that room or in your house, talking to your mom, and while this is happening. So, I'm not saying that Echo Generation has to be like Stardew Valley, where like there's a calendar and you see like, oh, this person's birthday, and I got to make sure I visit them downtown. Like I'm not saying it needs to be like that, but like something about just this entire game being so kind of confined that I think it takes a little bit of the pacing takes a little bit of player agency out, which obviously is a little counterintuitive, especially when they're doing active turn-based combat, to add that very thing back in. So that's my thoughts on Echo Generation Midnight Edition. And look, if you didn't put it together by now, go play this game. I believe there is I'm not sure if it still is. The original, just base Echo Generation, I think was on a Game Pass and stuff too. Because I think Ravenlock was also on Game Pass, so they might have a deal of some sort. But this edition, specifically the Midnight Edition, is currently available on PC, via Steam, and on the Nintendo Switch. So wherever you like playing your games, definitely check out Echo Generation Midnight Edition. And by the way, quick last final note. I did play this entire game on the Steam Deck, so if you also have a Steam Deck, then you can rest assured that it plays buttery smooth. No problems. All right, Nick, what else do we got? Is there someone else? Oh, you know what? I'm going to... here, I'll drop a tease. All right, I have reinstalled Crime Boss Rockay City, because I am a goddamn games media person. All right, I'm covering this game because they said that they fixed it. I am not far enough in. I downloaded it yesterday, and I've like an hour and a half into it. So I'm not yet determined, or I'm prepared to give a final, like, hey, here's what I think of this game as it is in 2024. But that being said, I can notice some differences. So good or bad, find out next time, where hopefully I'll have more more time with the game.
Yeah, I know it's been popping back up in some people's catalogs because some people aren't exactly pleased with the progress that Payday 3 has made.
Yes.
So,
and I do think that it's smart of them to capitalize on that, because they have been very like, yeah, you're missing out on, like, you want Payday, but, like, Payday's not doing it for you. Here's Crime Boss Rockay City. I will say, though, just a brief spoiler, the things that I originally reviewed Crime Boss Rockay City for the site. You can check out my review over on RespawnStation.com. But almost everything I should say that I said was bad then is still bad. It's just that they've added other things that kind of polished up the gameplay and stuff. But, like, the voice acting is still just as rough. I mean, it is a star-studded cast of people giving absolutely no shits about being in a video game. I mean, it's like, I can't even, like, you think Vanilla Ice gives a shit about being in a video game? You think he's going to come out and be like, I got to give my best performance for this video game? I've seen Vanilla Ice movies. I don't think he's giving best performances in his movies. I mean, God damn. Anyway, I digress. I'm not going to get on that train right now. We're going to get on it next week. So come back and find out what I think about it. Now, Nick, it's time to talk about the news. What's going on? What's the headlines look like?
As you might expect, a little slow after the deluge of, game announcements we've had over the last couple weeks.
You say that, but there's one story that I am baffled did not make the Summer Game Fest, like, showcase. But go ahead. Let's get into this.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess we can start off with we'll start off with some more game announcement kind of stuff. There was the limited run games showcase, which they do
totally
every year.
Missed. Didn't it? I didn't even realize this happened.
Yeah, I usually watch it, but this year I, as I mentioned, had that trip and everything, so didn't really get around to watching it. But their showcase is a bit weird because, like, half of their announcements are like, announcements of physical versions, and then half of them are like actual announcements of new games and stuff. So it's a bit weird to parse through some of that stuff. But just a couple of the highlights that I pulled out.
Yeah.
After many a leak, Beyond Good and Evil, the 20th anniversary edition, is getting a limited run version.
Yeah.
And I put this on here specifically for you, Sri, because Beyond Good and Evil is Ubisoft. Obviously, yes. Beyond Good and Evil 2 has been kind of stuck
still alive, Nick. They've said it's still alive.
Hell. They say it's still alive, and this might interest you, that this 20th anniversary edition apparently contains a new mission that has a narrative link to Beyond Good and Evil 2. How substantial that is?
Mission?
Yes. There's a brand new mission that you will be able to play.
What the fuck?
So, again, how expansive that is, I have no idea, but apparently there is some sort of narrative link and or tease for
weird.
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, so it comes with 4K, or it plays at 4K 60 FPS, improved graphics and audio. I'm not surprised. I mean, I hope this game would run well on a modern system, considering how old the original is. 20 years?
GameCube and PS2, and I played on PC, but I'm not sure exactly when that version came out. But yeah, it's been a minute.
Wow. Go ahead.
I was just going to keep moving on unless you had something else to say about.
I'm just surprised that they went back and added... I'm curious of, like, who thought that was, like... Who thought that would sell? I mean, or, like... that
right.
Like, because I'm not... Look, I don't have any interest in Beyond Good and Evil. Just, like... I think I might have when the trailer was coming out for Beyond Good and Evil 2, and I was like, this game looks kind of cool, but, like, that was a lifetime ago at this point. And I don't know if, like, this is what I'm going to be like, you're telling me if I play through the 20th anniversary edition, I'm going to play through a mission. I don't know if that's a selling point, but it's still cool for those of you, for fans who can kind of go back and be like, oh, I can look forward to this eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Like I said, we've seen this with other games before too, but to like varying success. So this could very well just be like a, you know, pick up a note on a table kind of mission, or it could be a little bit more in depth, but still kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Fear Effect is coming back, which is an old PS1 kind of horror game series. That was they usually get a lot of different like collections and retro stuff. A couple more things that I'll hit on here, like the Gex trilogy. Finally got a kind of like I think a release window that's was announced last year. Ninja 5.0, which is something that I'm particularly kind of interested in. To audience members that are not fully aware, I am a bit of a retro game collector.
Yep.
And Ninja 5.0 is, I don't know if I would say notorious or like famous or infamous, but it's a Game Boy Advance game that fetches a very high price on the secondhand market. So anytime we get something like this, where it's a re-release of something that's like exorbitantly priced and like people can actually play it, is always going to be exciting to me. And it seems like this cool like 2D platformer ninja game. So that one's pretty cool. Clock Tower Rewind and the Tomba games are getting, their new versions as well. The first Clock Tower, I think it was released in Japan, but not over here. And like our Clock Tower one was a different game. So there's some stuff mixed up with that one, but the Tomba games, kind of like I just said with Ninja 5.0, some of those games can go for a pretty penny on the retro market. So nice to see those. Weirdly enough, Bubsy is coming back. The notoriously bad platforming series from what I've heard. So it's cool that they bring these games back and preserve them. Again, how much a Bubsy collection is going to sell, I have no guess on that.
It's going to sell gangbusters, man.
And then the only other thing that I kind of pulled from it was just that they're doing some physical versions for some Grasshopper stuff. So Lollipop Chainsaw remaster is getting a physical. Grasshopper is. I saw someone tweet at
James Gunn. Hey, James, you know about this? And he's like, "What? No." I mean, for those of you who don't know, James Gunn wrote the Lollipop Chainsaw initially, but I'm guessing he handed that as a script and he checked out because he's not. I mean, you don't need to ask the writer for permission to remake the game, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, Grasshopper's not even involved as far as I'm aware with Lollipop Chainsaw. The one they are involved with though that only got like a tease. But it's heavily implied that the limited run is going to be doing some sort of physical version for the Shadows of the Damned remaster, which is what Grasshopper is working on. So
gotcha.
Cool to see a couple of those announcements as well.
I was doing some digging while you were going through that, and I didn't know this. Well, first of all, I didn't know what Fear Effect was. I didn't realize it was this game's series. But essentially they were working on. There's a game called Fear Effect Reinvented that was a remastered version of the first game, and it seems that 10 months ago it was reportedly canceled. So that's not what this is, right? This is not reinvented. It's just Fear Effect. It's just Fear Effect's coming back.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't even familiar with the Reinvented project, so yeah, I'm not sure what this is, but. To me, it usually, again, I haven't looked at the trailer for this one specifically, but with like Gex and Bubsy, Limited Run kind of has this new engine they have like either helped create, which is the Carbon engine. Yeah. And it's sort of about like porting older games to newer hardware. So I would assume it's just like a port of the original version, but not certain on that.
Alrighty. Well, that brings us to the next, the big one, I think, that I don't think anyone saw coming today, Nick.
Yeah. Are you talking about Dead Rising?
I am talking about Dead Rising. Dead
Rising Deluxe Remaster.
So the Doctor, that's what they're going for there.
Dur.
Yeah. So yeah, the original game came out in 2006, and here we are. We're getting there was a remake. Oh wait, there it is. It's literally right there. It was in 2016. There was an HD remake. But this is called a remaster, but it seems to be a remake. I don't know if they just did the naming scheme for the hell of the for the meme for the name, but it looks like they remade this entire game.
Yeah, I think so. You have your original version, and then you have that 2016 remaster. That one is definitely more of like an HD port. This one, at least from screenshots that people are comparing on Twitter and stuff, it seems like this might be remade in the RE engine, which is what Capcom is making all of their games in these days.
Yeah.
So it definitely looks like a visual step up. I saw some rumblings online that maybe there's a different voice actor for Frank West as well. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be, the same game, but kind of gussied up in the RE engine.
Yeah.
Which at least maybe the zombies will probably look pretty cool if Resident Evil's anything to go off of.
Or I mean, that RE engine can certainly look pretty under the right lighting and stuff. So I don't think that Dead Rising is the place I'd go for the graphics. That being said,
right.
I think Dead Rising 3 is the only one I've played, and it's still a really fun time when you have a bunch of friends. You just can't expect the game to work with you.
Right. Yeah, I think Dead Rising 4 also didn't really land how a lot of people wanted it, so it kind of makes sense that they would go back to like the original one, and I bet if this one does well, we'll probably see 2, because I know those are like 2 of the
Personally, I was hoping
ones.
they would go with Dead Rising E-Day, but unfortunately that did not happen. I was hoping for that announcement. But no, I this was the game I was also referring to. I don't know why this wasn't showcased during an actual Summer Game Fest. Like, I feel like this would have been enough to at least get a reaction out of people. I think people would have been excited about this to be like, oh shit, the Dead Rising is back. Weird that they just on a random Wednesday. Maybe they knew the podcast was coming out. I was like, they need something to talk about, so let's drop a trailer. But yeah, weird.
Like maybe the trailer like wasn't ready or something. Like I don't know.
I say that,
but
like but this trailer has two at least cuts to like three. Three cuts to just a screen with text on it. So
it's like 4 shots total. Yeah, like
yeah,
you got a point.
I don't know, but I
don't know.
Hopefully we'll see more of it soon. Again, it's slated for this year, and it's coming to all modern consoles, so PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC at the very least. Anything else, we'll see. But speaking of consoles that could be coming out, I can't transition this. Let's just keep going. The follow-up to the Smash Retro Collectathon Frogun is out on July 25th on Steam, GOG, Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, and the Xbox Series X, S, and Xbox One. This is hold on, let me pull up the name of the game. It's first of all, have you played the first one?
I have not. I've seen some gameplay of it, but I have not personally played it.
I mean, I don't know. Are you a platformer person? Are you a big fan of those?
Yeah, I'd say so.
That's okay. That's what I thought.
Like everyone, but I do enjoy a platformer like about as frequently as I enjoy like a racing game. Sure. Like I'll get in the itch like once or twice a year to play one.
That's totally fair. It's called Frogun. How would you say it? Frogun?
I would say Frogun.
Okay. It's that Encore. That's the second one. It's a follow-up. And it's described as 3 years have passed since Renata ventured deep into the lost ruins and saved her parents from Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies. Since then, it's been a tradition to spend some time with the Hatter and her former rival-turned-best pal Jake, the friends she met on her original adventure. I guess now they're attacked by the nasty fly boys who are still loyal to Beelzebub, and so you gotta fight back in this retro throwback platformer. So yeah, check it out. God damn it, whatever the hell, Encore.
Frogun
Encore.
Frogun Encore.
Yeah, it's coming out PS4, PS5, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, Steam, GOG, and Switch. Everything. It's on everything. And it looks cool. I mean, again, I much like Nick, I don't play a lot of platformers, but when I am in the mood for one, could be one to check out. So if you're in that same place, check out Frogun Encore. Frogun Encore.
Looks kind of like Ape Escape. Kind of has
similar
sort of visuals to that.
And then the last big news of the night. It's not that big. Some people might not even have heard of this game before, in which case I'll know you're a fraud because you didn't go to RespawnStation.com and read about it. Online co-op Bullet Heaven roguelike Champion Shift has launched into full release on Steam, with a PlayStation port on track to release later this year. Obviously, like I said, you can check out RespawnStation.com to read the full press release, but the gist is this is a co-op roguelike where the kind of the spin on it, no pun intended, or actually pun intended, is that your characters can turn into cars. Like you can shift into a car, fight around, drive around, drift, and then turn back into a person. It looks cool. Look, primarily if we're writing about something on RespawnStation.com that's not like just a review or a discussion, it's because it's because it looks cool, and one of us thinks it's worth keeping an eye on. So check out the full press release over on RespawnStation.com to find out more about Champion Shift. I believe it came out in April in early access, so it's had a few months of early access, and now they're ready to go for the full thing. I may check it out when it comes to PlayStation. Usually I'm like I said, console guy. So what can I say? Now, Nick, it's time for the main event. This is what people have been tuning in for all around the world. So let's talk about our favorite games of 2024, because we'll be honest, we didn't start off the podcast when we wanted it to. We wanted it to be the turn of the new year, but that ended up getting delayed a few months. So we missed a few games that we initially played at the start of the year that we want to talk about, see what we what if there was any hits. We're not going to talk too much about the misses because obviously we're trying to focus on the good stuff here. But
yeah, absolutely.
I think we're going to split this conversation generally into two parts. The first part is our favorite games of 2024 so far that are new. So games that came out either late 2023 or just 2024. And then we're going to go and open it up to a general discussion about just favorite games we played this year, even if they're not new, which I'll tell you what, I have some stuff to talk about for that. But Nick, I mean, where do you want to start here, man? Do you want to take the lead? What's a game that you got at the top of your list for 2024 that came out this year?
Yeah, sure. We should start with the news stuff. I think that would be the most reasonable area to spot. Basically, looking at my list of stuff that I played, I have only a handful of games so far that I've played that have come out this year, especially compared to 2023.
Sure.
It has been a lot slower. Basically, last year, like every single month, there was at least one game coming out that I in any other year,
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to play it. So compared to last year, it's a little bit slower. But
yeah,
the games that have come out in 2024 that I've played were Silent Hill: The Short Message,
Okay.
Pepper Grinder,
Yep.
Phantom Fury, Helldivers 2, Another Crab's Treasure, and if we want to count DLC, the Night Springs DLC for Alan Wake 2.
Right.
Of some of those games, real quick, did you play Silent Hill: The Short Message?
I did play The Short Message.
What did you think of that? I'm curious.
I thought it was interesting. So this was actually my first introduction to Silent Hill. I hadn't played a Silent Hill game before, so the whole vibe was like I was like kind of taking it in. Weird. So first of all, I think it's definitely like a graphical showcase almost. It feels like it. It's like a tech demo at the very least, saying, hey, like this Silent Hill game can look pretty good and it can run on modern systems, and it certainly did that. I will say that it did scare me at times because like of the jump scares. You can watch my full playthrough that's over on my YouTube channel, but I thought it was overall very solid. It felt very like I wasn't sure why this was a thing, because it was like a free thing that it just kind of came out suddenly, and it was like, people could play it, but like as far as I understand, there's no like real new Silent Hill game coming out just like on the horizon, right? There's a Silent Hill 2 remake that's coming from Bloober Team, but
that's the closest thing, and then the next like big one would be Silent Hill F, which got announced.
Dude, you're giving it an F before it even comes out. What kind of what?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I kind of agree with you on Short Message. I've played the first Silent Hill, and I've played Silent Hill 2, and like a little bit of 3.
Okay.
I've played the 2 that people consider to be the best.
Yeah.
The series has a bit of a shaky, history. And so I actually played this with a buddy of mine, Shane, who is now listening to the podcast. So hi, Shane, if you're listening.
Shout out, Shane.
Basically, he's much more well-versed with Silent Hill. So he's played like a lot of the other games. And so we sat down together to play it, just kind of passing the controller back and forth. And it was okay. Like, it's, like you said, it's interesting that they released it. It's free. It is a short game. You can play it in one sitting.
Yeah, it's exactly
really not
2 hours.
Really not that long.
3 hours. Yeah.
The messaging of the game is a little off in spots. It's like
the short message.
Yes, the short message is it's a little like too obvious at times, where I think Silent Hill is at its best when it's being really subtle with kind of its theming and everything. And this, it kind of lays it out pretty thick, like throughout the game.
You've played the Silent Hill games, so is it supposed to feel like that experimental? Look, again, I'm look, we're gonna have this conversation about Silent Hill right now. All right, everyone, just buckle down. So, is the short message has this Remedy quality to it? I don't know if you picked that up, where it feels a little bit like experimental, disjointed. It has either live action or like, I can't. It's been a while now, but like, is it either live action or like good graphics made to look like like handheld, like real footage? I think it's real people.
I think it's both. Okay, I think there are some sequences that are live action and some that are like in engine.
Yeah, and is that how Silent Hill is just in general, or is it like a new thing that?
Not traditionally, no.
Okay.
The first games, the first couple, are very kind of traditional survival horror games. You can play them like with tank controls or without, but there's like, fixed cameras and like occasionally it's behind the back sort of thing. But it's very traditional kind of in that style.
Yeah.
Some of the later games, when it's not Team Silent developing them, I guess you'd call it the Western era. Those ones are more traditional games that you would think of from like the 360 era of horror games, where it's like, kind of third person games from what I'm aware of. And, there's a little bit of jank in those games, but a lot of the experimentation and stuff kind of comes from like the narrative side of it, not necessarily the presentation, which I feel this game kind of leans into a bit more in that range.
Right.
But yeah, overall, like I thought it was a fun enough night that we, played through it, but like would it rank up on those
I totally agree with you.
That are considered amazing? Yeah, it probably wouldn't rank that high.
Because I also I played this, I played it, but then Austin and Alexa were over my shoulder, like backseat gamering with me, and so it was fun kind of going through it and kind of that experience. But I don't think it was necessarily like it didn't have me rearing for a new Silent Hill, but at the same time I do think Silent Hill 2 from Bloober Team I will be jumping into, just because it looks cool. And it's finally like, these are the times I wait for whenever a game, people tell me like, oh dude, you should play this game. I'll wait for the remake or the remaster, and then I'll play it. I'm not gonna go boot up a PS3 or PS2 again.
That's the hard thing with Silent Hill 2, because it's like there's no perfect storm for that game. Like people hold that game in such high regard, and Konami completely butchered the remaster when they were remastering it originally on the 360 and the PS3. And then people have their own issues with the remake coming out. So it's like there's no real perfect storm for this, unless like you have definitive
it is
edition on
so
PC.
weird that like the PT came out and then everyone's like, "Oh shit, this is kind of crazy," and then like they somehow like lost that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like developers would kill for that kind of the level of hype that PT kind of just almost like on a whim just created just by, hey, play this demo, and then everyone's like, this is the greatest demo of all time, and then like
I mean, people still talk about PT.
yeah. You see you see a hallway in a game that looks dimly lit, and people are like, this PT did it better.
PT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
But no, yeah, I don't know how you missed that. But anyway, actually, you know what? I'll hop in with a game that is also new. I think does everything that we just talked about, but I really liked it, and that's called Indica. It's not a horror game, but it is experimental, and it has a lot to say, which is kind of ultimately what I said when I was reviewing the game a few weeks ago over on the podcast. But if you missed it, Indica is it's a debut from Odd Meter. These developers, I mean, it's like 11-person team, I think, and they put their heart and soul into this game because it looks really nice. It has such a strong style, and again, I know people don't talk about it as much, but it is shot or like like the cinematography here is just awesome, and it makes you realize how like so many games don't use good cinematography because they're kind of going for the seamless kind of experience. I think the new trend has become the camera not cutting. The camera just stays on you the whole time, is just squeezing through these cracks and crevices. It's just over your shoulder the whole time. But like, dude, totally cut away. I will so much. Oh, sorry. I would be so much more impressed if it cut away and it showed me something that was just like, wow, that is beautiful or brilliant or just well shot, than me being like, is the camera not moved? Like, it's because I don't know if this is how some people feel. I like in movies, like what one takes in movies are impressive by default, but I think for me and maybe for you as someone who we went to film school, I think like they're not quite as cool because that they're not really oneers. Like where they edited and where the cuts are and everything. So like
right,
they're not that quote unquote special to a certain degree, even in movies. So like in video games where obviously you can do it, like the camera kept going through the window. It's a video game. Yeah, no shit. So yeah, I don't think it's as impressive. I hope if anything, Indica is an indication that we need more just strong cinematography in video games. But go ahead.
Yeah,
let's go back to you.
I was just doing a little bit of searching because I needed to see when we started our podcast exactly, and it was towards the end of March, right?
Yes,
I'm not mistaken on that.
Yep.
Around that time, I was playing Pepper Grinder, but I don't know if I talked about it or not in the first episode.
Yeah, we did talk about Pepper Grinder.
Gotcha.
But briefly, I think. I don't know if we got super into it.
That one I really enjoyed. That one's, kind of like, you were talking about with Echo Generation, maybe having some pacing issues. Yeah. I feel like for the size of this game, which is like a 2D action-y platformer kind of game, this was perfectly paced. Like it got in and out. It had just enough interesting variety in the mechanics and the levels, like how they're designed, and visually speaking, there's like 4 different parts of this like island I think that you're exploring, and it does a lot in its relatively short runtime. I think it was like 4 or 5 hours it took me to finish this game, so like it's pretty short.
Yeah,
but it pretty much was like, by the time it was done, I was like, that felt like the perfect amount for this game.
Yeah.
So
Nick did review this game. You actually reviewed it in April, so there's a little bit of a gap there. So check it out.
So yeah, maybe I started it in at the end of March or something. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. It was very good. Short, sweet, and like we mentioned with some of the other games we've been talking about, like a treat to look at, and just really satisfying platforming mechanics.
I think that's what I'm looking at my list, and I'm realizing now that every new game that I have is an indie game, and every old game I have is like a big AAA game. So it makes sense. I guess it makes sense. Where do we? Okay. Are we just talking about new titles, or are we just new games? Just just share our thoughts, or are we gonna go only? Are we gonna cut it to only the good ones? Because, I mean, look, I did just It feels like ages ago, but last week I beat Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and I haven't talked about it today because I'm writing a big article about it, and so I won't proverbially blow my load too early here with Suicide Squad, but I got a lot to say about this game, guys. It's it's an interesting one. Nick? Have you played the Batman Arkham games?
Yes, I've played.
Asylum and City are the only two.
I played Asylum, City, Origins, and Night. Those are the only ones that I've played.
That's all of them, isn't it? You just named all of them.
Well, there's the VR one, and then there's Arkham Origins Blackgate, which is like a 2D
oh shit! I have played that
3DS.
One. Yeah, I played that one. I haven't played not Assassin's Creed. I haven't played Arkham Origins, but I have played Arkham Origins Blackgate, thinking it was Arkham Origins. It was not. I did not like that game, and I'm not going to talk about that any more than that. Yeah, so Suicide Squad, we'll talk about it, but that did come out this year. Kind of crazy that you can buy that game for like 20-something bucks, and it came out February.
Came out in 24? I thought that was last year.
Came out February 2024.
Jeez.
Yeah. Trust me, we'll get into that on that article I'm putting together, Nick. All right, what do you got? Anything else that was big that you wanted to?
Yeah, I got my two big ones, which would probably be my two top ones for new games, and that's Helldivers 2 and Another Crab's Treasure. We already spent, a couple episodes ago talking about Another Crab's Treasure.
Yeah, there's a full 20-minute review where Nick talks about Another Crab's Treasure, so check that out.
It's great. If you like Souls games, it plays with interesting mechanics, interesting art style. It mashes up different genres really well. It's just a really awesome game. So definitely play that if you're into those type of games.
Yeah.
But I'll talk a little bit about Helldivers because I don't think I've really gone into it
you have
a
not.
whole lot. This game was a huge surprise. I remember seeing trailers in Sony showcases and stuff like that where they show this, and it's like, oh, that's kind of funny. It's kind of playing off the Starship Troopers thing, shooting alien bugs and all that. And I remembered looking into the first game, and the first game is like an isometric game. It's not even like a third-person shooter like Helldivers 2 is. But yeah, budget-wise, it just seems like Arrowhead kind of got way upgraded for Helldivers 2.
I remember seeing the gameplay reveal or whatever for Helldivers 2, and I was like, is that what the first Helldivers looked like? And then I went back and was like, no, this is what I thought the first Helldivers looked like. It's totally different.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I remember watching the trailers for Helldivers 2, and I'm like, it looks kind of cool, but this is probably going to be something that, might have its, week in the sun and then probably die off. And boy, am I wrong about that.
We didn't see that coming, did you? Yeah.
No. Basically, this is word of mouth success, the video game, I feel like right now.
Yep.
It worked on me. I was watching some people stream it because, I had seen, a couple different groups that were talking about hey, we're going to try out Helldivers. And so I would hop into a stream, and within the first 30 seconds, you either have incredible looking sci-fi, landscapes.
Action. Yeah. Oh, sure.
Super hardcore action war scenes, or slapstick level hijinks with people crushing each other with giant weapons, or blowing their legs off with because the friendly fire's turned on by default and everything.
I see now
it has these interesting little things it does where it's it's a third person shooter, but you have Max Payne-esque dodging. You have ragdolls that will initiate, like if you're too close to an explosion or something, you call in these giant orbital airstrikes by doing like a little like directional pad like code for different things. And so at its core, it's like it is a live service game, but it feels like it's a live service game that's bucking all the normal live service trends.
Yeah.
Like the core gameplay loop was really interesting. There's not a whole lot of story in it. Like there is a story,
Sure.
and I think the more interesting element of the story is kind of like this. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like somebody at Arrowhead is kind of like, planning out
game
this
master,
war.
right?
Yes, like this kind of thing where it's like they have like these little pop-ups where it's just like, we've lost, hold of this planet in this week because not enough people were able to, control the different sections of the map. So as like, a punishment, we're taking away this like, orbital strike from the game or whatever.
Right.
And like they have these like little emergent kind of story things based on the progress in these fictional wars that the players go on. So that kind of stuff is really interesting.
Briefly kind of talked about it when we were, I think, when we had briefly talked about Helldivers 2 in the past, but yeah, the reporting around this game in terms of just like how people covered it was, I think like lend itself so well to entertaining content, but also just like I think it fed into the game's success immensely because I mean these people were writing articles like they were, I mean, like this was real stuff. They're like, and then the aliens have attacked, the planet has fallen, and then it's like there's a second wave. We've made a push back. It feels like so dramatic and theatrical.
The community is totally bought in on
everything. And that's the thing too. You have to have the community fully in on that joke, or that kind of that shtick, or it doesn't really land. And I don't think, and that's the thing too. Like, would something like Suicide Squad, which is a live service shooter, would that have benefited from a community that was fully locked in like that? Sure, maybe, but didn't. It's something that very few live service games can ever get. I think it is a very coveted kind of like thing to achieve, the thing to get,
Yeah, they've kind of moved the goalposts now. Like,
absolutely.
Obviously, like, everybody wants their Fortnite, but I feel like now Helldivers is absolutely in that conversation too, where it's like we want our Helldivers too, where everybody's
at this
sharing
point,
clips online and everything.
At this point, I see so many people that are like, whatever, insert like fandom and be like, I wish this had Helldivers 2. Like, I wish Star Wars had a Helldivers 2. I wish, blah, 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 Yeah, definitely. You know what? Here's the thing. I think, I don't know why, if anyone has thought of this over there at Games Workshop or whatever, feel free to take this one from me, guys. Just give me a credit. But a Helldivers 2 type of game, but set in the Warhammer 40K universe, feels like it's begging to happen. Because, like, it's all baked in. Like, the lore is there. You got, like, the idea of, like, the Emperor and, like, like kind of, like, being that all-powerful kind of... Like, essentially, you have human cannon fodder that's willing to die for the commander. I mean, it all makes sense. Or not the commander, the Emperor. So... Mark my words. If we see it one day, I better see my name on there. More Games Workshop. But also, I
special things.
I see so many people that are like, "Oh, what if Warhammer had this or that?" But like, for how many Warhammer games there are, they're slowly figuring this out. Because how is it that like last year, 2023 was the first year where we got a boomer shooter set in the Warhammer 40K universe. It feels like it was made for that kind of thing. Anyway,
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Helldivers is, everybody that sings its praises. I think it's well justified. I put like 30 something hours into the game and it didn't even feel like I played it that long.
Sure.
I've been taking a break from it, just playing other stuff for a little bit here, but like it's the perfect kind of like, oh, you want to play Helldivers? Let's reinstall and hop in, and you're not going to miss anything.
Yeah.
So,
it's always nice to have those. I mean, that is the benefit of having a live service game in your pocket. There's always 1, 2 that you kind of maybe can switch between. I'll talk about that in games that I'm playing that are old. New games. All right, so this is going to sound like a joke, but I really mean it because I've put over 50 hours into this game, and it has not been out for the whole year. I am, of course, talking about X Defiant. I played the crap out of this game. We're just, 4 days away from Season 1 starting, still in the preseason. They're kind of doing everything I've been asking for. As you know, they added TDM. They've been very openly communicating about all the changes they've been making. Weapon leveling has been tweaked like 3 times in the last 2 weeks because of, they're taking in player feedback. Like at one point, Austin logged in and was like, Alexa logged in and was like, wait, my items have all these attachments now. And that's because they went and made it so they changed the leveling, and like I said, all the leveling is retroactively impacted. So you have all these attachments, and then last week, Austin hops on and is like, "Wait, my weapons are all double the level," and so they just doubled the level to make it tweak all the settings. So really, I think that there's the one thing that's really holding this game back right now is the netcode. It is infuriating at times. So for those of you who don't play the game, obviously the netcode is kind of the to put it very plainly, the communication between your console, the game servers, and then the other person's console. Essentially, that kind of conversation that happens. It's so weird and essentially there's so often in X Defiant, you'll turn a corner, you'll go into a room, and then you'll die from getting killed. And it's not just from fire damage or wall banging. It's genuinely it's just there's a desync there or something that just makes it so frustrating because you can't have those moments when the netcode is as weird and fucked as it is here. You can't have those moments where you clean up 2 people and then dip, dive, duck, and dodge to cover, and then come back to do more damage. By the time you're getting back into cover, even if you think you're in cover, sometimes you'll you'll slide to safety and then die. So, that, and then add some kill cams. So at least I know maybe I was killed by skill and not just the game not working. But. Mm-hmm.
But then, they'll add the kill cam and you'll be in cover, but then in the kill cam you'll be halfway across the room.
Yeah, that'll happen. But no, I've loved X Defiant. It's everything I've wanted it to be, and I know some people are thinking, oh, it's like a Call of Duty filler, just waiting for the next Call of Duty, but we'll see. Unless Black Ops 6 is everyone's this is the best Call of Duty ever made. I don't know if I'll shell out $70 for it.
So I got one thing for you. Yeah. Netcode notwithstanding, seeing as they've been listening to you, what's the next thing you want them to adjust or throw into the game?
Well, that's the thing. Everything kill cams, which is a big one, which I'd love kill cams, and they said that they're working on it. They're just trying to test, how that stuff works, testing out if it works. So it is in progress. There's also, I really don't know what else they would. The game's there. It's all the core package. I think leading into Season 1 it's all set up for a good launch. I just hope that as Capture the Flag and all the new maps come in, I think it's just it's so much smarter to the way they're doing it here. So yeah.
You think it should say multiplayer, or would you want a single player component at some point down the line?
I think just multiplayer, because single player I think would just be so weird in terms of there's so many different things getting involved.
After I said that, I was just all the different factions and stuff.
And you say single player, but I would also say I wouldn't want survival mode or anything either. You know what I mean? Even if it's not single player, I think that this is. I would want to see more game modes, and they're adding more game modes. Currently, I think there's 5 or 6 now, maybe with Team Deathmatch. So they're adding more. Nick, we got to get you on this, man. We got to see.
At some point, yeah. I definitely I want to play it with you before you
inevitably
get off of it.
Yeah. Do you have any more new ones?
My hard drive right now.
Oh, dude,
the main roadblock.
Yeah, no, trust me, I get it. I think the only thing that's saving me right now is that because I switch between an Xbox Series X and a PS5, I have like a double the bandwidth in a way, of like games I can have installed. But but I will also say I have XDefiant installed on both my Xbox and my PS5, so it's ready to go in case I need it.
Right on.
All right. Anything
as
else?
Far as like new games, that was pretty much it for me. The rest of my stuff is at least last year.
Okay. All right. I'll fly through some new ones that I enjoyed at the very least. We recently talked about Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. That was a fun one. Quick, short adventure. Botany Manor. Caught it. Another short experience. A lot of these are short experiences that I'm going to name here, but very poignant little botanical puzzle game. Again, a lot of these we have reviews for now, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. High Slipper 2, I had a lot of fun with that one. Like, I actually put a lot of time into that one, like, in terms of just playing it. Slay the Princess. I think that I also talked about this on the podcast, but this was before we started doing all the clipping and all that fancy stuff, so you probably have to dig around the first 2 episodes or so but Slay the Princess was a really weird, cool game. It's a visual novel, so keep that in mind when if you're going into it, but other than that, I think those are all the new games. Dude, literally every game I've played this year that's new, I think has been indie. So like there's Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered, kicked my ass. Did not finish that game. Slay the Princess, House Flipper 2, Botany Manor, Phantom Fury, Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, Hypercharged Unboxed. That's a good one. They announced some big news coming out tomorrow, so whatever it is, we'll talk about it on the podcast next week if it's meaty. Actually, is it?
Right on.
Die by the Blade. That was a fun one, but again, short-lived. It's just multiplayer games are multiplayer indie games are cool, but they don't get if you don't get that footing right off the bat. It's gonna be rough getting a player base up, keeping it up. But oh, and you know what? Echo Generation Midnight Edition. I love that game, so definitely check that out. All right, Nick. Now we can talk about the games that we played that are old, that we liked as well.
Old dusty pieces of crap with cobwebs on them, right?
Is exactly how I like to play my games. If I'm not blowing if it doesn't feel like I'm Indiana Jones picking up this game after a century of untouched, then I don't want it. It's not from my backlog.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so go ahead, hit me with it. What's your?
So a lot of my list, honestly, has been stuff that we've talked about on the podcast. I do have a couple things that predate our podcast recording that I can bring up, and then I'll just kind of like touch on some of the ones that we've talked about previously, but that are highlights.
Sure.
At the start of the year, though, I was playing Hades and Super Mario Brothers Wonder at the same time, basically. Mario Wonder, I really enjoyed. I don't think like it blew me away, and I'm not sure if people are gonna in 5 years' time say like, oh yeah, Mario Wonder, what a true landmark game, right? It plays with some really interesting mechanics, and it does break away from conventions of other 2D Mario games.
Yeah, and
like obviously the presentation is like great in the game, but looking back on it, it's like. It was fun, but yeah, would I put it in my like upper echelon of games that I've played? Probably not. It was just kind of a fun 2D Mario platforming little jaunt.
Sure.
Hades, on the other hand, I did enjoy a good amount. It took me a while to really come to grips with how the game works. I've played a couple of roguelikes, and Hades, obviously, many would consider the best. My personal, preference goes to Enter the Gungeon, but I played that first, so that probably is, going into that.
I'm also playing a roguelike right now, Nick. Not to brag.
Oh, yeah?
Crime Boss Rocket City, yeah.
Right.
But you didn't know that.
I always forget that has, like, roguelike elements in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hades, like, obviously the art style is incredible. The music's incredible. The amount of variance in kind of the gameplay, I think, is really strong for a roguelike. I wish there was a little bit more variance in the boss fights. There's like one boss per area, that you go through, and you're always fighting those same bosses. Whereas in Enter the Gungeon, each area you go to has like 2 or 3 different bosses that can randomly pop up. So that just kind of goes a little bit further in making each run feel a bit more interesting, rather than, I'm always going to fight the Bone Hydra, or I'm always going to fight, one of the sisters in the beginning areas of Hades. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think Hades 2 is also naturally going to be a really good game. That's in early access right now, but I'm not even going to touch that until it's a full game. Like, I've mentioned it before on here that, like, I like early access in concept, but I have so many other games to play that it's like I can't get into stuff that's not finished yet.
A brief hint at stuff that we'll talk about later. There was we were talking about topics for this episode. I think one of the ones that Nick had brought up was like genres or stuff that we kind of tend to not go towards or whatever. I think it was something like that. I think me squatting, but
genres that we bounce off of.
Yeah, early access is that for me, because like a lot of the times, even whenever I do venture into early access, I always find that like, oh, this is kind of cool, this is kind of fun, but then like the content isn't there to actually enjoy. So I'm like, okay, I'll just wait for the content to come out, which is when the game comes out.
Precisely.
Yeah. But oh man, I played quite a year for my backlog. First of all, a big one that I swear to you, I'm gonna fucking get back to. All right, Red Dead Redemption 2. I played, I believe, according to my PlayStation 5, a little over 10 hours of this game. And what can I say about Red Dead 2 that hasn't been said already? I don't really think I can. It's one of the few games where I'm playing the game and I'm forgetting that I'm playing a game, and I'll just be like, this is I'm just watching a movie here, and then I'll like be like, oh wait, I'm controlling the cart as it drives around, or as it goes around. So Red Dead 2, awesome. Looking forward to see where that goes after 50 hours whenever I roll credits. Or how
I can't wait to see when you get further into the story. The story is one of my favorites in recent gaming decade, probably.
All right. Let's see. Let's talk about some of the ones that I have managed to clear out. Far Cry 3 was actually the first game I played and beat this year. It was the big one on my backlog as a huge Far Cry guy. I'm surprised I haven't beaten Far Cry 3 before, and I actually beat the Blood Dragon before I did the base game. But Far Cry 3, awesome. I wrote a review for on our Respawn station, so I'm not going to rehash all of it. But for some reason, I keep thinking about this very specific moment, and I think it's probably I know what the reason is. It's because the song's in my rotation. There's the Make It Bundem from Skrillex, and it's a very famous scene. A song it plays during when you're lighting up fields of marijuana with a flamethrower, and every time that song plays on like shuffle in my car, I'm like, think back to Far Cry 3. I'm like, fuck, this song's forever been tainted now by by burning down weed fields with flamethrower.
That one mission is so like stand out from that game, because it's like I played it on the 360 and like I have not gone back to that game ever since. But that is just one moment that just like it's so out there compared to all the other missions in the game that it just kind of like nails itself into the back of your head. Like
and I actually think if anything it kind of first of all, I don't know what this is. This just went up 8 minutes ago. Capcom Next Summer 2024 teaser. So I guess this is happening Monday, July 1st, 2024 at 3 p.m. PDT. So I guess
breaking news.
Yeah, look forward to that next week. I guess I didn't know this was happening. Anyway, what the hell? The opening of Far Cry 3 has a similar tone. It has that song "Paper Planes" by MIA, and then has like that montage edit that almost makes it feel like it's a summer little summer action or mystery movie. And then, like, I think it really doubles down. Essentially, what you're saying, like, I think the reason why it stuck for me is because it doubles down. It's like, hey, remember that thing that we said we might do at the start of the game where, like, it could be, like, this weird kind of poppy adventure thing? That's exactly what it is. Because I was expecting just, like, any old mission, and to roll up to this just... Because, again, for just general context, you have to walk just casually or drive up to this place, not knowing that this is going to happen. You're just given the task of getting, doing some damage to a bunch of fields or whatever, and you roll up, and then the music just starts, and so it like really like puts you into the headspace. So yeah, highlight for sure. The next game right after that, because I was like, I'm on a roll. Far Cry 3. Let's play Lego DC Super Villains. Bounced off of that after a mission. Did not play it anymore. But Wolfenstein: The Young Blood, I did finish because I was told that this chronologically this is the first game. But also, I'm sorry, I forget if we've talked about it. Have you played this game?
Which one? The Old Blood?
It's a standalone DLC to the first game.
Yes, I played it like a year or two ago.
So have you played any of the other Wolfenstein games?
Yes. I can't recall if I finished Wolfenstein 3D or not, but I've definitely played it.
Oh, sure.
I've played like a third of Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
Oh,
and then I've
talking
played
about the OGs. Okay.
Yeah, and then I've played the Old Blood, New Order, and New Colossus.
Okay.
I did not play Cyber Pilot or Youngblood.
Okay, all right. All right, so Old Blood has a story reveal at like the last in the last act that I did not see coming at all. Don't know if it's like has any meaning in the larger context of Wolfenstein, or if this is just like it's a spin-off or standoff of standalone thing. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I was not expecting that for sure. Not gonna say it in case anyone hasn't played it. Remnant from the Ashes, beat that game on stream. Crazy.
Oh wait, real quick, Sri.
Yeah.
There is one other Wolfenstein that I played. I did play the 2009 Raven Software
one. Wow.
And I actually have a funny story about that.
Yeah.
I didn't technically finish it because really late in the game, my game glitched and it took my guns away. And no matter what I could do,
overpowered.
like restarting checkpoints or whatever, like the gun model just physically disappeared and I couldn't fire at enemies anymore.
BJ Blazkowicz is too OP, man. They had to nerf him. Can't believe you played after that patch.
My guns out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess look, since we're talking about Wolfenstein, I actually did also start, and I'm probably like 80% done Wolfenstein Youngblood. I'm playing this in co-op, so I have to, it's a we're enjoying the torture together because this game is not fun. I am not having fun with it. There's times again, another game that I'm streaming, and there's times where I'm streaming this game. I'm like, guys, I would rather not be doing this right now. And so that's the reason why we haven't played it in like 2 months. And I originally I was gifted a copy of this game for the Switch. I said this briefly before. Got it on the Switch and was like, let me give it a go. Was like, this is not good. It looks really, really bad on the Switch. I mean, guys, just look up gameplay or just play it for. I don't know. It's bad. So I was like, okay, the Switch is not how you're supposed to play this. So I'm playing it on the Xbox Series X now, and I realize it's just not meant to be played. I mean, it's so. It has none of what I think makes, because I've played the New Order and stuff as well, but I just haven't finished it. So that this was my attempt to finish the games, and also I know what happens in I know who these characters are and everything. Like I have the context going into Youngblood, and it lacks so much of what makes those games so good. I understand. I think that honestly, maybe it could be as simple as, I think Wolfenstein at its core is meant to be single player, and making it a co-op experience just kind of really muddles that. But the writing doesn't work. These characters don't have the life of what, of like BJ or any of those other characters from the main series. And at the end of the day, I'm just not invested. And so, yeah, unfortunately, started off with a really fun Wolfenstein, and then Youngblood. I just realized I went from the Old Blood to Youngblood. Maybe that was what I needed to transition. Maybe that was the problem. Anyway,
Which Remnant game did you say you played?
From the Ashes.
from the Ashes. I've installed that game 2 times with the intention of playing it, and have deleted it before starting it both times because I
I'll
moved
play
on
with
to
you if you
something else.
want. So here's the thing. Not a lot of people know this, Nick, but there's actually 3 games in the Remnant series, and everyone knows Remnant from the Ashes, and then now everyone obviously knows Remnant 2. But actually, there's another one that's called Chronos. I think it's called Before the Ashes. And Chronos was originally released as a VR game, and
that's why I haven't heard of it.
And then, but here's the thing. Then Remnant from the Ashes came out and did well, so they re-released Chronos, and they added the subtitle of Before the Ashes, and fun fact, it is a Souls-like. It is not. And I mean Souls-like as in just a Souls-like. People say that Remnant is like Souls-like with guns. There's no guns in Chronos. It is a classic Souls-like, and there's actually a really interesting feature built into it. So essentially, in Chronos, I know we're talking about games which we played in 2024. All right, but oh well. So Chronos has a feature where every time you die, you age, like you grow a year older, and then as you grow older, you're like. Again, it's been like 3 years since I played this game, so I don't remember the stats. But essentially, like you can put experience points as you grow, like after every death or whatever. But like I believe your speed goes down. So like the older you get, like it's like that kind of give or take. And so having had that experience, I also installed Remnant from the Ashes 3 years ago when I played Chronos, and I was like, this is the time. Played an hour and a half, and I was like, okay, nope, I'm not going to play it now. And finally, because I was doing it in co-op with Austin and Alexa, actually, at first it was just Alexa, and then Austin joined later. But we were able to go through it. But, dude, this is totally a Souls-like with guns. I mean, there are bosses that took us over an hour in this game to beat. And I know that's not a lot for some Souls-like bosses or whatever, but with a game where you have a gun and you're just pointing, shooting it's a thing. There are some brutal moments, but it's really cool. I hope I get to Remnant 2 soon. It's just that it can be. I mean, it's the same thing with the Souls. Like it's vague with its narrative sometimes, and I have to have a little bit of more of a strand of a narrative for me to pick up on. But maybe Remnant 2 will be better. I'll get to it eventually, but. Remnant from the Ashes.
Everything I heard from 2 made me want to play 1 a lot more, and like I said, like I've just never had the right timing to hit launch game and get into that first one.
There's a lot that's really promising in Remnant, and so I can only imagine from what I hear, like you said, they double down on all that stuff, because there's procedural generation in Remnant, but it's like procedurally, like just kind of placing the blocks in different kind of like essentially tile sets differently. But I think in Remnant 2, like they take it to a whole nother level where like certain like entire like labyrinths I think are kind of are procedurally generated. Could be wrong. Well, I'll talk about it whenever I get to playing it. Okay. Oh, do you have any big ones before I jump into my big one that I know I've played a lot of?
So the only other one that I have that I don't think we've talked about on the podcast was I played Time Splitters 2. Are you familiar with the Time Splitters series?
I do know Time Splitters. I didn't know you played Time Splitters 2. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I played the first one a couple years ago, and from what I remember, the first one is kind of like a launch title on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And so it kind of has that launch title vibe. Like it's
yeah,
it's very short. It's kind of not really a narrative going in there. It's more of like a multiplayer game because these are the same developers that were originally at Rare when they did GoldenEye and like Perfect Dark.
Right.
There's kind of like a lineage here.
Yeah.
So Time Splitters was sort of like PlayStation's kind of multiplayer shooter, more or less. And Time Splitters 2 I played this year, and I liked it more than the first one. It has some more interesting time periods. Like there's like a Wild West one, which is like an easy win for me usually. There's like a 1920s gangster one in a rainy city. Like there's some cool stuff. There's like an alien planet one, and there's interesting weapons that you're picking up in each of these levels. And what I really like about Time Splitters is the weapons will reflect the time periods that you get them in. So like in the gangster one you get like a Tommy gun. In the Wild West one you have like a 6-shooter revolver. In the alien one you get a laser rifle. So that sort of stuff. It's just that's like cool. It gives them a lot of creative freedom to have very different aesthetics, but not have it feel weird. And so the story in the game is, again, there's more there than the first game, but it's still like pretty minimal. It's like a intro cutscene and an ending cutscene at the end of each level.
Right.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's basic by today's standards. Like there's not a whole lot of like complexity to the combat outside of like point and shoot. But what I do like, or what I spent a little bit more time than I thought I was going to, was actually the multiplayer at the end. You can set up bot matches, so you can just play against AI bots, and there's a bunch of different modes in there, and it's completely different to how the campaign works. Like the campaign, like it's sort of traditional where you'll have your different enemies placed throughout the level, and you kind of be careful, go around, shoot all these enemies, pick up health kits, all that. The multiplayer is like really fast paced. It's like you guys are like running around, like constant fire, like from all sides in like free for alls or team deathmatch, or like trying to run for a flag or like a pickup or something like that. So
I mean, it makes sense. I thought I was only especially if it's from those devs at Rare. I mean, it makes sense that they're good pulling out good multiplayer.
Yeah, like I thought I was going to launch into the multiplayer and do like 2 rounds basically after I finished the story, but like I played it probably for like another session or 2 after finishing the game, where I was just like, yeah, this is fun. So yeah, I have Time Splitters Future Perfect that I still have to play, which I'm intending to do sometime this year, but I've also heard pretty good things about that one.
I don't have many left that I think are... Again, I'm not going to go out of my way to mention something just to shit on it. I've done that a little bit maybe. But let's see. The Division 2, again, I'm not going to mention it too much because we've talked about it on the podcast before, but I've fell into Division 2. I've been waiting for the right time to get into it, and I guess this was it. I've put it was 30 hours in the main game, and then like another 5-6 hours after that into the DLC. There's probably actually, I still have it installed, so there's definitely still more content to go, because essentially once you've beaten the core game, and the DLC kind of extends that to a degree, because it is a live service game, after every season there's like a seasonal story mission or whatever that gets added. And when I'm playing it now in 2024, having, I think 10 seasons maybe have gone by with that game, you can go play through those last missions of each of the seasons again and catch up on the story. So I'll have to, find some time to go back and do that, see what happened. But again, I know some of the stuff has been spoiled because of both the Ubisoft's promo and material and people on Discord and stuff like that. But it's not a huge deal. I'm not like totally invested or anything. What else do we have here? Oh, the Callisto Protocol. Okay, look, I know you just said, or sorry, I know you're probably thinking, wait, Sri, you just said you're not going to bring up a game just to shit on it. Well, I will tell you this. I actually am not going to shit on the Callisto Protocol. I'm actually enjoying it. I think that the combat is way better than I expected going into it again. It's like, I don't know why it's clicking so hard for me this time, but the combat works in this game. And I haven't really seen a lot of third-person shooters, or third-person action games, or horror games, I guess, do this. Do you know how the combat in Callisto works, Nick?
I know it's primarily melee focused, and from what I remember seeing, like, dodging is also pretty important.
That's it. Essentially, like, as an enemy is attacking you, if you put left, or if you move left or right on the left analog stick, your character will do a dodge in the direction that you picked. I just jammed my seat into the mic, so you probably heard that. But then if you aim and then shoot, it brings out your gun. But if you don't shoot, if you just press R2 without aiming, then you take out your melee weapon and use that. It feels like, I don't know what works about it this time, because again, I played through some of it with on the couch with while like Alexa and Austin were playing. We were passing the controller, and at the time I was like really not into it. But this time around, I really gave it the time of day. I really wanted to give it my full attention, so I listened to the podcast and I went into the game. Actually enjoying it. I hope I have 2 more missions left, so I'll talk about it on the podcast and give my review once I finish those 2 missions. But I don't foresee the game totally choking in the next 2 missions. So if everything continues, I think I would actually be relatively positive about this game. I know a lot of people were just very against it, but pretty good on Callisto. You know what, Nick? I think those are the big ones that I've hit. What? So, actually, I guess you could. How many games so far, exactly halfway through the year, have you completed? I'm going to count mine because I have to count. But how many? What's the total?
Currently, because I'll preface this and say that I include DLC expansions on my list. Right now I'm sitting at 21.
God damn.
Which is lower than it's been in years past. But...
I'm at 12. Yeah, there's a disparity there for sure. But I mean, some of these you'll I guess it kind of carries out to I write about the games a lot. I have no excuse.
Yeah. I mean, I also whenever I first started using the app that we use, GG, to track this stuff, I hit about 50 games in a year. I think it was my first year I tracked it. It was 55 or something that. And each year it's pretty much gone down. So if we're halfway through and I'm looking at maybe 40 games this year, I think that'll be the least amount that I've gotten through in a while. But again, that's not really usually the point, and it always depends.
No.
If you bust out 20 7-hour games.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm sure one Red Dead 2 is I don't know,
exactly
50 Tiny Terry's Turbo Trips. I don't know, that's yeah. Okay, I think we've covered all the big games that we wanted to talk about that we've been playing so far in 2024. Some of them are games that we've already discussed on the podcast, but some new ones that
shout out to Roller Drome.
Yeah, shout out to Roller Drum. But with that said, that actually, believe it or not, brings us to the last segment of the show, and it's not the inbox, because you didn't even know it. Like a pill that that you put a little treat, you put the pill in the treat, and then you give it to the dog. The inbox was already in this episode. You guys didn't even know it. So the last thing we're going to end on is actually like this. Try that. And Nick, what do you got here, man? What is this? I can't be reading this right.
Yeah, so basically, I mentioned my friend Shane earlier on in the podcast, and recently we've gotten, or more specifically, I've gotten back into playing Halo Infinite. We've been playing that multiplayer together. We played it around when it first came out, or at least I did.
I did.
Shane's kind of stuck with it. Yeah, he's kind of stuck with it on and off throughout, the last couple years here. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. And so basically, I kind of wanted to take my like this, try that, and be like, you know what? If you're looking for a fun multiplayer FPS game, try hopping back into or hop into
for the first
Halo
time
Infinite and give that a try. Because what I think makes it so interesting is basically what it's always been, and that Halo is different from a Call of Duty or an X-Defiant or a Battlefield. It has a very different flow, just like the movement mechanics are different. the way that you balance like shields and health is different than these other games, but it has that tactile and like action-packed nature that a lot of those games still have.
Yeah.
So they've, you know, obviously they've been updating the game for a long time. There's tons of like modes and, you know, different weapons and stuff like that here and there. Yeah, we're having fun playing it, dipping back into that. So I would say if you're looking for something, yeah, and free to play. Thank you for reminding me that. Yeah, like you can just hop in and give it a play. And the thing about Halo Infinite that I wanted to say specifically was like it's like coming back to it after, you know, playing it at launch.
Yeah.
It had that like servicey kind of, you know, it has that service slant, right? It's a free multiplayer game. So like some of that stuff, you know, there's cosmetics everywhere. There's all that other stuff. But I think just being able to play something that feels a bit different. Yeah. Basically what I'm saying is a couple weeks ago when I was talking about Black Ops 4, I don't think my multiplayer shooter fix was really scratched. My itch was scratched with that game. And this game is kind of scratching that itch finally. So
nice.
If you're looking for something like me to scratch like a multiplayer kind of itch, maybe consider throwing Halo Infinite in the ring there.
Yeah, there you go. I don't have a like this, try that for this episode, but I'm going to actually, I do have a little bit of show and tell. This, I want to make it very clear. I'm not bringing this up because I'm like trying to like call them out or anything negative. I'm just really intrigued about this game. This is this, I guess, suppose this is like a fragment of the inbox. So this is essentially, Nick, do you know what Captain Blood is?
I didn't. I was listening to a different podcast earlier today that brought up Captain Blood, so I kind of know what it is now.
Okay.
But go ahead and educate me a bit further on it.
So Captain Blood is a pirate-themed action game which was last showcased in 2010. 14 years ago, they showed off this game. And now, with a world premiere, they're bringing it back. So they announced that Captain Blood will officially be coming out for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. And I don't know what to expect here. Nick,
it's awesome. I'm gonna say, like, this is the first time I'm seeing it. It absolutely looks like a 360 or PS3 game.
It totally
that's
does.
Just coming out, but it's like almost like lost media, right? Like It just never appeared. It's like, you know, people always will bring up like Star Wars 1313 and stuff like that. It's like, imagine if Star Wars 1313 was just like, oh yeah, we're releasing later this year. Like,
no, it has that
I love this
Duke Nukem effect, and it feels like definitely a game heavily embedded in that time period that in which it was kind of conceived. Again, in that late 2010, late 2000s, I guess is how you say it. But this is coming out fall 2024, and for anyone who's like me, your interest is piqued. This game essentially has you living as the bravest and most fearsome pirate on the Spanish Main, and it's kind of third-person action. There's some kind of platforming and stuff in there as well. You can use anything from cutlasses, pistols, muskets, throwing knives, hand bombs. I mean, you're brawling on these ships. It looks crazy, and also it has this, as they advertise, a graphic novel vibe. So definitely check it out. Captain Blood. Didn't see it coming, but I'm glad I did. It's hack and slash adventure coming out later this year, and you know what? I'll definitely give it a go. But that brings us to the end of this episode of the Respawn Station podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed this time a fully integration of podcast 1.2 update. So, if you guys liked Nick's new audio, let us know by leaving a rating, leaving a like, all that fun stuff. Subscribe on YouTube. Check out youtube.com/RespawnStationTV to check out all the highlights and stuff of anything kind of big that you might have missed from our meaty episodes. I mean, I guess 2 hours is that average for a podcast? I guess maybe.
Yeah, that's pretty average for us.
Yeah. So of these meaty episodes, you can kind of get bite-sized content. Oh, I say bite-sized, but it's usually like 15 to 20 minutes long either way. But a little bit more bite-sized content from us for your enjoyment. Thank you to everyone who watched our newest ones as we've kind of been changing our format and everything like that. We appreciate all the support. Keep it coming, and we'll keep on making stuff. Also, as one final teaser, we are going to have another show going on the channel soon. I'm not going to say any more than that, so you got to keep your peepers peeled. But as always, people, Nick, do you have anything else to say to the people before we send them off to drive home or whatever they do when they're not listening to the podcast?
I hope that the audio is a bit better now that we've troubleshooted and squashed that bug that was persisting last time. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, Sri, as always. Always a good time talking about games.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody. And until next time, as always, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.